Welcome to Appleby's online service on this first day of January 2023. It's the first day of the first month of the new year. And we're not meeting in person, and we wanted to have something to share with you on this day. We look forward to returning to Appleby Sanctuary next Sunday on January 8th. And I hope that you've had a really nice holiday with your friends and your family and some rest and relaxation. Virginia's going to be out of the office. She's going on vacation. So this week on Tuesday to Friday, she will be in the office. Please submit your annual reports as soon as possible. And then she goes on vacation January 9th to February 8th. And the office will be closed, but messages will be gathered a few times a week. We have a reminder that the Morning Glories luncheon is on Tuesday, January 10th at noon. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Miriam Milsom. Let us join together in prayer. God of stars and sages, open our senses to know your presence in the ordinary moments of our days. Lead us into the gift of a new year full of hope and promise, knowing your grace will guide us. Amen. And I'd like to share with you some stories behind Christmas carols. An author named Alan Vermilye of Brown Chair Books wrote a book that was called Christmas Carols, Daily Advent Devotions on Classic Christmas Carols. And it sounded interesting to me, so I ordered myself a copy. The other day, I reached out to John Anderson, and I asked him to send me a list of Christmas hymns that our Appleby choir had previously recorded during COVID. I picked out 2 hymns from John's list that the author has talked about the history of in his book. One of them is O Little Town of Bethlehem, and the other is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. So first, I'd like to share with you the history behind the person that wrote the Christmas hymn, O Little Town of Bethlehem. The words were written by Philip Brooks, and the music was written by Louis Rednar for Christmas Eve, 1868, for the children's choir in the Episcopal Church that Brooks was a pastor for. Brooks was born in 1835 in Boston, and he was educated in a Latin school, and then he graduated from Harvard in 1855. He first became a school teacher, and then later he went into ministry and became an ordained Episcopal priest in 1859. He was good with children and known for his amazing, enthusiastic sermons and his advocacy in support of the Union and the abolishment of slavery. One particular sermon that he preached right after the assassination of President Lincoln was so popular that it was copied and shared among the Union supporters. After being at Holy Trinity for 4 years, he went on a sabbatical. And on Christmas Eve, he got a horse in Jerusalem and he went on horseback to Bethlehem. He stopped in the fields and he looked up at the sky where he thought the shepherds would have been, looking at the night sky, seeing that star of Bethlehem that was guiding them to go see the baby Jesus. He carried on, and later that evening, he went to the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, and it was built over a cave that was considered to be the site of the Nativity. He was forever touched by the worship service that lasted from 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve, so close to the spot where Jesus was born. 2 years later, in 1868, Brooks used his experience to write some verses that he wanted the children to sing in the choir on Christmas Eve at his church. He approached his music director, Louis Rednar, and asked him to write some words, some music to go with the words. And it was he had no formal music training, and he tried to come up with a tune, but nothing came to him. And he was a bit concerned with what he was going to tell Pastor Brooks the next day on Christmas Eve and what they would do with the service with the words that he had written. Lewis went to sleep, and while sleeping, it is said that an angel whispered the melody of the tune to him, and he got right up and wrote it down. Lewis filled the harmony in when he went to church the next day. O Little Town of Bethlehem was sung by their children's choir that very next day on Christmas Eve, 1868. The hymn became so popular and it was shared all over. And it wasn't until 1892, 24 years later, after that first Christmas Eve when the performance was sung at the church, that the official hymnal for the Episcopal Church included it in their music. Brooks was known for his preaching and one who introduced Helen Keller to Christianity. Upon his unexpected death in 1893, he was honored for his success as a Harvard graduate, and it's said that he was treated like a king, and a statue was prepared in his honor at the Episcopal Church, and they still remember and celebrate his death on January 23rd yearly. Rednar did not receive any accolades, no statues, no fame on his part for writing the music. It's said that he was an ordinary man who was called upon by his minister to help with a tune, and he did that. Both men had not expected the song to go any further than their children choir on that Christmas Eve. Our next hymn that we're going to hear about is Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and it was set in 1647. At that time, the English government decided to pass law saying that no celebration with music or festivities could happen at Christmas time that would take away from the holiness of the day. It was over 20 years later that Oliver Cromwell's death in 1660 that ban was lifted. However, no hymns were written during that time. It was during that time that the Wesley brothers were born. Charles Wesley was famous as a hymn writer, and his brother John was famous as a theologian and the founder of the Methodist Church. Charles wrote over 6 1,000 hymns in his lifetime and many poems. On one Christmas morning, while Charles was walking to church, he heard the bells ringing, and it led him to write the hymn that he called Hark. He later changed the hymn name to Hymn for Christmas Day, and it was published in 1739. He wrote his hymns to help the everyday person find and connect with God. However, it was said that his choice of words made it hard for them to understand. The first line originally said, "Hark, how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings." The Wesley brothers refused to let their lyrics be altered, and if they were, they insisted that their name was removed. However, one of their friends, and his name was Pastor George Whitefield, he didn't feel that that request applied to him as their friend. So in 1753, he made several changes to the song, changing the first line to what we are familiar with today: "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King." And then he retitled the hymn in that name. And then he published it in his collection of hymns. There's nothing documented to tell us what Wesley's reaction was to the changes, and the hymn underwent many more changes to the lyrics over the next 6 years prior to Wesley's death, settling on the version that we sing today in the words. And it's been sung to many tunes. Wesley himself wanted it sung to the tune, "Christ the Lord is risen today." And in 1856, Dr. William Cummings wanted a faster, upbeat tune for this Christmas song. He loved the lyrics, but he liked a composer whose name was Mendelssohn, a Jewish convert to Christianity. So he took Wesley's words and Mendelssohn's music, and in 1857, Cummings put the two together, creating the well-known upbeat Christmas carol that we sing today. Without the contributions of Wesley writing the initial words, and Whitefield changing the lyrics, and Mendelssohn's tune, and Cummings bringing everybody together over 300 years ago, it would not likely have been heard today. Now, let us listen to the Appleby Choir singing, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing."
Mercy on God and sinners reckoned.
As we leave our worship time together today, may we be blessed in the discovery of new opportunities, new ways to love and live and reach out. May God send us from here with love, this time together that we share, and make us open and willing to take comfort in the love of others. May God journey with us into this new year as we are full of hope and ready to embrace all that God is offering to fill us up. May God grant us the courage to love freely, without judgment, and to be creative in how we serve and reach out to others. May God bless those we love and those we don't. And now may we go out in faith, trusting that God will lead us. May God go in love, believing in God's saving grace. And may we go in peace, recognizing God's precious gift given to each one of us. May God be with you in your going out and your coming in your rising up and your laying down, in your labor and in your leisure, in your laughter and in your tears, until we meet again. Amen.